All right, so one of the main important things that we have to do here in our unit that we're working on with bank interest is we need to be able to know what formula we use when. And so when we look over here at what we've got, so the first two formulas, simple interest and continuous compound, those are my most obvious because simple interest, you're going to see the phrase simple interest. Continuous compound, you're going to see that phrase or compounded continuously. So I'm going to identify in my problems here, do I see those phrases? And so in my first one here, I see that phrase simple interest. Therefore, I know that this is an example of simple interest. And then I'm also going to look for that phrase continuous compounding or compounded continuously. That you can use that interchangeably. And I see that in my third example here. And so by seeing that continuously, I know that this is continuous compounding. And so those two are my two obvious phrases. And so if you see those phrases, then you can identify them right away and go ahead and use those formulas and go off with it. If you don't see those two phrases, then you need to go and identify with the flow chart. And so if we take a look at our flow chart, the very first question in our flow chart is, do I know the deposit amount? So that's the first question we've got to answer when looking at our problems. And so in example number one, it says you deposit $500. So it's telling me the deposit amount. Therefore, when I go and look at my flow chart, do I know the deposit amount? Yes, I do. So my second question down here, is it one deposit or is it multiple deposits? So I go back and I look at my example and I see that it's $500 into an account. And so this is telling us that we are only making one deposit. And so when I follow my flow chart down, I know the deposit amount and it is one single deposit. That is an example of compound interest. So this problem up here is going to use the compound interest formula. With my second problem, I'm going to ask myself that first question. Do I know the deposit amount? And it says right off the bat, how much do you need to deposit? And so that tells me, if it's asking me how much I need to deposit, do I know the deposit amount? No, I do not. And then I need to determine, is it one deposit or is it multiple deposits? And this says deposit every month. And so when we are depositing every month, that is multiple deposits. And so when I look at my flow chart here, don't know the deposit amount and I'm making multiple deposits, that is an example of present periodic. Looking at my fourth problem down, again, I need to ask myself that first question. Do I know the deposit amount? And right off the bat, it says, how much do you need to deposit? Therefore, when I look in my flow chart here, do I know the deposit amount? No, I do not know the deposit amount. Now, is this one deposit or is it multiple deposits? And so this says, how much do I need to deposit now? And so when it says deposit now, that is telling me that this is one single deposit. And so when I don't know the deposit amount and it's one single deposit, that is an example of present single deposit. So this again is present single deposit. And then I've got to look at my very last equation down here. You deposit $500 every month. So that first question, do I know the deposit amount? It says you deposit $500. Therefore, when I look at my flow chart here, do I know the deposit amount? Yes, I do. Deposit $500. Then I need to determine, is it one deposit or is it multiple deposits? And it says that I deposit $500 every month. And so that every month is an example of multiple deposits. So when I know the deposit amount and it is multiple deposits following my flow chart, that is an example of a periodic deposit. And so hopefully going through these examples kind of helps to give you an idea of the wording that you're looking for and being able to follow through that flow chart in order to determine what formula and what type of problem solving in our banking unit. And hopefully this helps to kind of, follow along and be able to solve these problems.